looking ahead to next week, we've been keeping our eyes on Russia. Developments going there. The finance ministry wants to let banks sell crypto, but the Bank of Russia wants to ban it. Putin is kind of in between, praising crypto mining advantages in the country. So interesting to see how crypto policy evolves and takes shape in Russia. Also, India just came out with a 30% tax on crypto. They had previously discussed banning it. And interesting to see where India takes policy. They really want to launch their digital rupee alongside, as we see China right now with the Beijing Olympics launching their CBDC digital yuan. So the world is watching how that is being used. And we do have Senator Pat Toomey saying, the U.S. has to get on board. We've got Jeremy Lair, the CEO of Circle, an issuer of USDC, saying the U.S. really has to step up to bat and become a leader in digital finance. Other news we're watching, the storm in Texas that's shutting down some crypto miners because as this winter storm approaches, the Riot blockchain is among the companies on Stormwatch and looking to help protect the state's power grid. Christie, how is this impacting mining?
Right. So the takeaway from this is Texas, if your power goes out, don't point the finger at Bitcoin miners because they are apparently trying to do their part. So if you're in Texas right now, you might be preparing for some cold days and nights, Brad. If ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas grid, goes down again as it did last winter, the outage last year left about 4.5 million homes and businesses without power and led to nearly $200 billion in property damage. And it doesn't seem as if ERCOT has really learned a whole lot from it. They're expecting kind of more of the same. But the thing is to understand Bitcoin miners are not using up that energy and making this happen. So over the past week, miners like Riot Blockchain, Compute North, Rhodium, they've already started either voluntarily, preemptively cutting down their energy consumption, or they're preparing to shut things down at a moment's notice. This is one of the unique characteristics of the Bitcoin mining industry. It has the ability to just shut things down in like 10 minutes should the need arise. And that's some incredibly nimble infrastructure right there. To be sure, Texas has programs that are available for heavy power consumers like crypto miners that gives them incentives to lower their energy usage during peak demand periods. And like, for example, some of the miners can sell some of their excess energy back to the grid. They are there to stabilize it. Riot participates in load management programs and other services. So they do get something out of it, but at the same time, they are mindful of the energy situation in Texas, and they are looking at making sure they are part of the solution and not the problem. And what does that relate to for hash rate and securing the Bitcoin infrastructure? There's quite a bit of hash rate in Texas, but it's not causing a blip. So hash rate reported from known pools is still over 200 exahashes per second, which is just like a tiny shade under the all-time high for reported pools. Even as these went offline, the difficulty adjusted upward last night by, granted less than 1%, but still upward, not downward. And next week, so what we'll be looking at next week is as more go offline, we'll keep an eye on the hash rate and just see what happens in Texas. So, Brad, stay warm.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the word on the ground is, we had a couple freezes the past couple nights and it's already starting to warm up. I mean, this storm is nothing like the storm we had last year. So I think there's definitely a bit of a PR coup for our governor, Greg Abbott, who's been under serious scrutiny for how we're going to perform this year. But it's a much, much lower bar. Anyway, just to throw that in there.
Taking a look at next week, what do you see for the markets in terms of the Fed having any impact? There's also the short squeeze that could be the reason behind we're seeing a bounce in today's market. Do you see that having an impact going forward?
I mean, today's move is super interesting because, a lot of this anticipation of this year's Federal Reserve monetary policy tightening, which is the first time we've seen this for a couple of years. It's kind of already priced into the market, and the idea is that would be bad for Bitcoin and risk assets. And here we had another report this morning that would suggest that the Fed would get more hawkish. And yet we have this, we're up 11% over the past 24 hours. So that is kind of interesting. There's not a whole lot more kind of hawkishness that people are currently thinking that the Fed might price into the market. The markets react
Could it be
instantly
that 2% that owns 70% of the value of Bitcoin?
You could be right. We need to check that out, Christine. But I think things are looking more bullish right now than they were this morning, and certainly this time last week.